Hi, this is Daniel with Grin Gaming, and today we're going to be finishing our firework particle effect in Unity 3D. The first thing we're going to need to do is make a texture for our material. So we're going to go over to Photoshop, and this is what we're going to shoot for. And we're going to open up a new project, 1024 by 1024, 72 RGB. Hit OK. And the first thing I'm going to do is hit Control-Shift-N for a new layer. I'm going to make the first layer the lowest layer. Not white, black. On top of that, I'm going to use the text tool to make a plus sign. I'm going to color the plus sign white. Figure out where the center is. And then drag this to the center. This is about as big as you can go with text size, it seems, so I'm going to rasterize the layer. And then I'm going to drag it up so that I can make it bigger. That's pretty much what we want. And the next thing that I'm going to do is to make it pointy, like this one. I'm going to just I'm just going to click on the outside and then right click and go to warp and drag these warps like this. Drag each of them in a similar pattern to this. Doesn't need to be perfect. Remember, we're just making a star shape for the firework to explode out into. So it's not that important that it be perfect, but you can try your best. And then I'm going to drag these up or in and towards the center, and that'll just shrink the edges and kind of make it a bit more pointy. And then when you're happy with whatever your end result is, just hit enter to exit the transform mode. And then you have that. Now we're going to want to go to outer glow, or no, don't do that yet, sorry. We need the circle in the middle. To do that, we're going to go to sorry about that, the ellipse tool, and then just make a circle approximately in the middle. Turn off the stroke, make it white, and then once we have the circle how we want it, a little bit smaller maybe, get that into the center. Go ahead and merge these layers. This layer is actually nothing. Merge those layers, and now we have our shape. Gonna add a little bit of a glow outside of it. Outer glow. Turn it white. We want it to be more fuzzy as opposed to sharper. So turn the spread down and the size up. That should be good enough. Alright, once you have your shape here on the black background, go ahead and go, I don't know, I like going save for web. Once you're ready to save for the web, go ahead and, we don't need the size to be 1024, so I'm going to save it as 10% of that, 102. Save. Then we need to find where we're saving it. Documents. Particle tut. Assets. And I'm just going to save it here as firework. Save. And then the other thing that we want to make is a spark. Control-Shift-N for a new layer. Spark is going to be made of a custom shape. Just as an aside, you can use like a butterfly pattern and bring that in and make a butterfly particle effect or any other kind of particle effect that you want. For the spark, I'm going to use this right here. Go ahead and drag it. Create the spark. No stroke. Fill white. I'm going to center it. I'm going to put a glow on it. Just going to copy the layer style from this other one and paste it on that. It's a bit quicker. And then we are done with that. Go File, Save for Web. Same thing, 10%. Save. This is going to be called Spark. Save. Minimize that, and then they should both appear in here. I saved them in the firework. So let's drag them out to Assets. Go into Assets. Let's organize this a little bit. So let's go create folder, Materials, create folder, Textures. Let's add these materials into the Materials folder. Let's add these textures into the Textures folder. We're going to want to create a couple new materials, so go create material. This one's going to be firework. And then let's make another one, create material. This one's going to be spark. And so let's go firework, add a texture, go to the firework texture. The Untitled texture is the one that we just made, I think. So let's actually go to that one, Untitled. And then let's go particles, additive. That's good. And we got that. It's not quite as good as the other one, but you can mess around with it and make it as good as you want, as well as you want. And I'm going to turn down the opacity for the spark. I'm going to do the same thing. Bring in the spark. I'm not sure. This one seems like the new one. Spark. And then turn on particles, additive, and I'm going to go ahead and turn down the opacity just a little bit. Alright, so then let's get started on making our firework particles. So the first step is, of course, to make a particle system. And once we have the particle system, we're going to add the texture that we're working on. In this case, it's going to be the firework texture or material. And then we're going to go to do some of the basic things like the emission. It's going to be burst, and the bursts are going to be 4 long, so we're going to have 4 different bursts. I'm going to change the shape real quick so that we can just see how it's looking as we're making the burst. The sphere we're going to smash down all the way to 0.01, and the bursts we're going to set for the first one at 0.15. I'm going to set the burst to, let's say, 85.5, and this is so that we can create a time frame for the different bursts. 125, 1.2, 75, and this is just completely just random numbers with a bit of thought put into them. You can always fine-tune this to make yours look even better than mine. The gravity multiplier I'm going to put at 0.75. And the inherent velocity, I'm going to leave at 0. And put it into world space. I'm going to put the start speed at 8. And now we start to get, it'll go up and then it'll rain down. The total duration we're going to set for 3 seconds. It's actually going to have a start delay of 3.05 seconds. And that's going to allow it to go across the sky. And then it's going to have the initial puff explosion, and then 0.05 seconds, very little, and it will start playing this after that. The start lifetime, we're going to change that to let's go to random between 2 constants, 0.7 and 1. And so it'll fade out before it really becomes weird. And the start size, we're also going to set that random between 2 constants, and those constants are going to be 0.15 and 0.3. So now we have that going on, and Forgot to change all this. 0.15, 0.5, 1.2, 1.6. I actually did change it, but then when I messed with the times and everything, it must have changed that as well. Anyways, let's move along to color over lifetime. So this is a pretty cool example of color over lifetime, as we can make a rainbow. Let's see, what do we want to start with? A rainbow blue, and then try to go into like colors that'll lend themselves to like a rainbow effect. So blue and yellow make green, yellow and red make anything. Yep, orange, yellow and red, and then I don't know, do like purple maybe. Purple, and then so then you get these different ones. For that, let's change the rotation over lifetime and do that on a random between two curves. Let's go ahead and do 30 and 180, and so there you go. And it's not quite that great right now. It's not like the other one, which if you look, that's been simulate through the sky, and then it explodes, and it's got a bunch of different colors, and that's because I have all these different duplicates of the particle system. So let's rename this correctly. Fireworks, whatever, fireworks. And with that, let's go ahead and duplicate it. So now we have another one. And what I did is pretty much just went through and changed up some things to make it different than the other one. So the emissions, for instance, I'm going to go 0.35 and change it to 40. Go to like 0.85, change it to say 60. 1.55, 35, 1.85, and go 50. And I'm going to leave this shape. I don't know, you can change it a little bit if you want. So 0.3. So it'll start out a little bit further along. And then you can change other things too, like you can change the lifetime, just to try to create a little bit of chaotic effect so that it doesn't look identical to the other one. Change the start size to 0.25 and 0.4. Then you can adjust speed or anything else. I'm going to leave it at that. And go to color over lifetime, and I don't know if there's a reverse function in here, but you can just drag them and reverse them. Just remember where they were. And then that way you'll have the reverse of the colors, so that when they're playing together, it'll look pretty cool. So that's 2. And let's make one more. Duplicate. Go ahead and change the size even smaller to 0.15 and 0.35. And then leave this. Let's change the speed to 6.5 or just 6. And it's pretty much that for there. And then again with the emissions, if you notice we didn't have a 0.0, so I'm going to make a 0.0. And I'm going to change this to 85. Change this to 0.7. I kind of wrote down all the different values, and then that way I could see which ones I had and which I didn't have, to try to maximize the different times. 0.3, and then I'm going to leave 1.85 as like the final big one or whatever, and I'm going to boost this up to 80, and this to 50. Alright, so that looks pretty cool, right? Basic idea there. You can take out some colors that we might not like as much as the others. Just leave purple and blue if you want, whatever your personal preference is, to be honest. So once we have that done, we have to move on to the next part, and the next part is to make another particle system. Object, create other particle system, and we're going to name this Sparks. So now we have our Sparks, and we're going to do the same thing with this. Let's go into this one, and it's whatever you feel is the best way of doing it, but I'm just going to use the numbers that I have written down, which are 0.35, 40, 0.85, 60, 1.55, 35, 1.85, and 50. And I'm going to add the spark as my material. I'm going to change my shape because cone is no good for this, to a sphere. Sphere I'm going to put at 0.3. And they're giant, so they look really, really poor right now. So then we're going to want to go and change the size. And the size is going to be random between two constants, 0.1 and 0.15. And we're going to change the lifetime to random between two constants, 0.5 and 0.85. So there you go, you got like some sparks going on. Start speed, I'm going to change to 10 so that they're fast. Let's go down. Let's do color over lifetime. Sparks can be any colors. I kind of just went with what I thought spark colors would be. Doesn't really create the greatest illusion for sparks, but go ahead and do that, and then do one more. Make it red. And so there's my spark colors. Size over lifetime. I'm gonna make the sparks kind of start to disappear toward the end of their life. That's pretty much it for the sparks as well. I forgot to go into the render on the other one. Render, go to 0.1. Turn off cast shadows and receive shadows unless you need those for something, if you're going to be doing that. I'm not, so it takes up, you know, power, memory, or information. Draw calls, I guess, would be what we want to call it. Change all the render, 0.1, turn off, turn off. In case you're just watching this one and haven't watched the other ones, when I made the materials, I used particle additive. If you are making this for a mobile device, go ahead and use, so go to shader, mobile, particles, additive. Can't stress that enough. You don't want to use regular shaders on mobile devices. So let's go ahead and drag this into our fireworks and see how it looks. How does it look? Looks fine. It's a little bit too far out. I'll change the speed to 8. And forgot to add gravity, 0.75. And that's it. So it just got these little dots within it. Again, it's just more chaos to it to make it look more realistic in my opinion. And so now we need to add a smoke trail. We're going to put everything together now and we're going to animate it. So now we have our effect. We don't want it to loop, so turn off all loops. Looping is just my favorite way of previewing what's actually going on. So turn off looping, looping, looping. Sorry, the duration of the sparks is going to be 3 seconds. And I forgot to put the delay is also 3.05 seconds. So now that we have that, I'm also going to say to go into assets, click the wrong thing, I'm going to show something in Explorer, but I don't care. Folder, I'm going to call this fireworks 22. Drag everything into the fireworks 22 folder, open it, create a folder called animation, create an empty game object. So go create empty. Here's the empty game object. Zero it out. I'm going to drag this into the empty game object. Once this is in, I'm going to zero it out. I didn't check. I'm going to check that everything else is zeroed out within it. If you don't make sure that everything's zeroed out, then some things might be on different parts of the screen, and that's obviously no good. Call the game object firework folder or something. Now that we have that, let's go ahead and add a component. One other thing. Because this is invisible and isn't playing the firework, I'm going to add a cube to my scene. I'm going to drag the cube into the firework holder, and now I can tell this is where my firework is, so I can position this however I want. And positionally, I want to move on the x-axis over here. And then let's go ahead and say add component, miscellaneous, animation, create new clip. Go ahead and call this, just going to call it rocket. So now we have our rocket clip. It's up here over in the animation thing. If you don't have the animation window open, go to window, animation. You can dock them. It'll start off undocked or whatever, but you can drag it around and then dock it wherever you want. So that's where I want it to dock. Go ahead and click on the timeline, and we're going to add a transform position. Oops. New keyframes by moving this again. Make sure that I'm on the firework holder. Alright, so that's going to be my start point. I'm going to do a midpoint too at 1:30. Midpoint is going to be right here, and then at 3 seconds I'm going to have it go up more abruptly and on a shorter distance, so it'll look like it curves up a little bit. And let's see what it looks like just in the animation sense. Alright, double check that this is on once. Stop that. Let's hide this cube, and let's see if it works. And there you go. That is our particle effect for a firework. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you learned something. I'm going to be including the packages for the other tutorials in them. They're already there, so you can go and download the pre-made particle effects on our website. You can also download this one on our website, or just make it. Better to do it and learn how to make it. And I'm also including the Match 3 tutorial package, so if you've done up to part 4, or if you just want to see what it does and want to learn it, you can download everything up until part 4, and I'll include updates of that as Aaron gets further and further into those. So this is Daniel with Grin Gaming. Thanks so much for watching, and stick around, like, subscribe, and comment. Thanks. Bye.